How does the central bank work to rule affect you? Find out.
The woman who killed her husband finds out her fate.
And a family tonight without a home after this blaze. The Bahamas Tonight, the National Report, starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Central bank workers in the middle of a pension dispute called in sick today, slowing down operations at the institution charged with maintaining monetary stability in the country. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Andrew Knowles. Thanks so much for joining us. Today's action at Central Bank follows the union's protest yesterday outside the bank against changes in the pension plan, which both line and managerial staff unions insist were made without consultation. Although the bank has strongly denied the claim. At the center of contention is a change in terms of pension payouts, which calls for workers to take out 75% of their pension before retirement, leaving the bank to match only the remaining 25%. Kendino Knowles is following the story.
Just one day after central bank workers stated a work to rule, staff members staged what appeared to be a company-wide sick-out. The apparent action comes as unions representing line staff and management at the central banking hub are lobbying to have a recent change to the pension plan reversed. It's a decision both unions insist was made unilaterally, although the bank has strongly denied the claim. We learned today that the entire exchange control department called in sick, while all of the other 13 departments were also affected. Calls to the human resources manager at Central Bank went unreturned. We spoke with a number of managers at some local commercial banks today who say so far day-to-day operations have not been affected. However, they fear the worst if the central bank unions stage a strike. Numerous attempts to reach the head of the Clearing Banks Association for comment also failed. In the meantime, here's what local banks are facing with looming industrial action. The banks, which are mandated by existing requirements to send excess funds to central bank, might not be able to do so. The bigger issue here for the commercial banks would also be getting cash from central bank. And with the entire exchange controls department out of the rotation, those businesses that have to make payments for goods and services abroad won't be able to do so. Even locals who sometimes have to get approvals for other miscellaneous payments such as college fees and other foreign payments will also find themselves in a jam. The unions have said that they are hoping for an amicable settlement with central bank, but they are prepared to take even more drastic measures that will last however long it takes for the bank to reverse its decision. Union of Central Bankers representative Melanie Munning says what concerns her and her membership is the fact that with the position central bank has taken in terms of cutting costs, it brings into question the stability of the bank. In the meantime, work to rule remains in effect, and it is unclear how long it will last. Munnings added that it could all come to an end if the bank would agree to terms beneficial for all parties involved. Kendino Knowles, ZNS Network News.
The course of the aviation sector in the Bahamas set to completely change as a result of a major contract signing between the government and the International Air Transport Association and Stantec Consultant Services Limited.
The two separate contracts penned today will make way for the separation of the regulation and operation of the sector, resulting in further strengthening, growth, and autonomy of this vital link of the islands.
Now, the Bahamas is unique in that the government is responsible for 28 airports compared to other countries in the region which are responsible for only 1 or 2.
This means our archipelago depends heavily on a well-regulated sector to ensure the safety, security, and connectivity of not only the people of the Bahamas, but the millions that visit our shores annually.
Well, Clint Watson tonight tells us what this revolution will include.
Aviation officials have made a quantum leap to modernize the sector. The contract issued to the International Air Transport Association for $219,000, according to Minister Gladys Hannah Martin, will achieve 3 main goals.
An institutional restructuring. Sounds simple, but it's not. The separation of the regulatory function, a function which provides independent oversight of safety and security standards in our country, in our aviation sector. And that is key to the quality of our aviation sector. That is being separated from the operational function in airport operations, including management of the aerodrome operations, crash fire rescue, air traffic services. And thirdly, the establishment of an independent agency or bureau to investigate crashes and other aviation incidents.
Stantec Consultant Services Limited has been issued a contract for $752,000.
They will do a comprehensive strategy for the optimization of the Family Island airports. They will look at environmental standards for airports in the Bahamas. They will look at health and safety standards and safety management systems for airports in the Bahamas. They will look at emergency preparedness plans for government-owned airports. Help us develop a hazardous cargo management procedures for airports. And finally, an energy and water use and conservation plan for our airports.
Prime Minister Perry Christie notes that the modernization represents a new day.
This will create new entrepreneurial opportunities for Bahamians. This will ultimately create new management companies to manage airports in our islands, management companies owned by Bahamians ultimately. The future beckons, and it is bright.
Prime Minister Christie also hoping that the modernization with IATA will help the Bahamas meet the standards so that it can begin collecting revenue for its airspace.
To ensure that a contribution can come back for overflight payments to our country that is collected now by the FAA, that equity demands that we move to the point where our country can have the assistance that other countries now get from airlines that fly over our country with a view to making some contribution back to the necessary development that I have just described.
Now, on a critical note, the government has asked both foreign companies to ensure that Bahamians are intimately involved in the process so that the knowledge is passed on to locals here, thus strengthening the aviation industry. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
A woman convicted of killing her husband 4 years ago will have to spend more than a decade in prison for the crime. Vern Carey was in court when the sentence was handed down.
That's the amount of time 25-year-old Makiko Black will have to spend behind bars for killing her husband, Defense Force Officer Leonardo Black, back in April of 2010. That sentence handed down this Friday by Justice Vera Watkins. Black was initially charged with murder. However, a jury convicted her of manslaughter by provocation instead, indicating that they believed she had been provoked. She testified during the trial that she and her husband had an abusive relationship, and on that fateful day they had a fight. She said they both reached for a loaded gun in their apartment at the same time, but she got it first and it went off, killing him. In court, Black appeared calm as the sentence was read. At the same time, her relatives sitting in court wiped away tears. In sentencing Black, Justice Watkins indicated that she took into consideration the mitigating and aggravating factors in the case and the suggestion made by Black's attorney that she receive a suspended sentence and probation with a heavy emphasis on community service. The judge said she also took into consideration the fact that manslaughter is a serious crime and the fact that Black has shown no remorse or regret for killing her husband. Justice Watkins then sentenced Black to 14 years in prison after taking into consideration the 1 year and 5 months she has already spent on remand. Outside court, Black could not hold back the tears as she was taken away by police officers. Meantime, mother of the deceased, Mayor Ronnie Black, had this response.
God is in control of everything. And the Bible says you cannot kill nobody and expect to get free. This is only the first part of it. She had the opportunity to ask God forgiveness. Anthony Delaney and Maria Zancola prosecuted the case. Delaney had this to say about the sentence.
My colleague and I have no personal feelings about it one way or the other. Is that we were entrusted with a task to do, and we've done that task to the best of our ability. And the jury has spoken, and now the court has spoken.
Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
The Police Staff Association is making final preparations for its election scheduled for Monday. 1,000 eligible members are expected to cast ballots to elect a new executive team to lead the association. That includes 5 inspectors, 29 corporals, 15 sergeants and 48 constables. Polls are scheduled to be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Police Staff Association in Bank Lane, Police Headquarters, and the Kendall Isaacs Gym. Polling stations will also be set up in the Family Islands. A PSA official says the first count will take place at 7 p.m. and at that time only the branch and board members will be announced. Branch and board members will then meet on Wednesday, January 22nd to select the executives of the association. And once that's done, those executives will then choose a new executive chairman. Yesterday, former executive chairman of the PSA, Inspector Dwight Smith, was arraigned on an indecent assault charge. He was seeking to be re-elected to the top post in the association. The PSA official noted that Smith's name will be on the ballot, quote, up to today. The Ministry of National Security took its crime forum to the nation's second city last evening. Scores turned out to share their suggestions, which they feel will assist in breaking the back of crime. Our Megan Shepard has more.
The general consensus among reported that the year 2013 that crime on this island can be linked to unemployment here on Grand Bahama, but on Thursday evening, hundreds of residents turned out to the Ministry of National Security's crime forum to voice their comments, questions, and concerns regarding the issue.
We want to ask the commissioner that when he's gonna hire other officers, because they've been trying for 2 years to get on the police force. And it ain't like they want to go on the police force for personal reasons. They just want to protect the country and help curb the crime on this island.
Crime is a two-part tool, and if we could address the job market, then crime wouldn't be so high. And I feel like it goes right back to what I was saying earlier, middle class. The middle class people are hurting, and they're not able to employ anyone. And the country would not grow without the middle class.
The general consensus among some Grand Bahamians is that crime on this island can be linked to unemployment and that some persons are feeling compelled to commit illegal activities in order to survive. That is why residents say more must be done when it comes to providing employment opportunities for Grand Bahama.
I think the major approach to the crime problem is let's get the economy rolling, let's get the poverty line eliminated, and let's get the people empowered, and I think we'll have a better economy and a lower crime rate.
I think it has to do with monies in people's pocket, plain and simply. If you have money in your pocket or money in the bank, then there's no reason for you to commit a crime. So they need to seriously think about creating some employment opportunities to empower the people so that people will have a sense of satisfaction and don't have the need to go out and try and rob someone or do anything criminal.
But others say residents must step up and accept some responsibility for crime.
Crime is not a government issue. It's a people's issue. All of us need to get involved and to do what we can to stem the flow, and so on. And so I think this is the time now for us to get together, to share our concerns, and to let this nation know that it's time to turn back to God.
You look at it, they're doing their best as an organization. But their cry to the Bahamas is people helping the police. I mean, and it makes sense, If you know you have someone in your house with a gun, you don't wait for them to shoot someone else. You may be the person they shoot, so turn them in. And that's what they're asking for, public involvement.
I enjoyed what he said tonight about crime. Everybody needs to tell the police something if they see somebody stealing something or selling something. So I'm going to do my part. If I see somebody stealing something, I'm going to call the police.
And as young men across the country continue to get a bad reputation as the main offenders, one young man says he attended the forum to squash that perception. He says he is calling on society to uplift young men in the community.
I think young men need to feel love, in society, rather than you downing them all the time, saying, oh, you're so no good, you can't do this, and saying stuff like, oh, young people are up to no good.
The overall feeling at the crime forum was one of satisfaction. Residents say they are pleased that the Minister of National Security along with his team heard their concerns, and now they are hoping for some positive action. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
In our first look at weather, we have that cold front south of the capital generating some nice chilly weather, and by the way, it will continue right through the weekend. But outside of our studios just now, we have mostly cloudy skies. Your temperature is 68 degrees, relative humidity 60%. Winds are out of the north-northeast at 4 knots. Barometric pressure 1,019.0 millibars. That's 30.09 inches, and it is rising. But stay tuned. Temperatures around the Family Islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Well, still ahead tonight, a fire leaves a family homeless.
And then in sports, find out how close we are to being ready for the first World Relay Championships. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.